Sweet, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 22 of At Home with Mark. So my friends know this, and I told Jano this, but today is a fanboy day for me because Mr. Jano Rix is on the show. Thank you so much for coming, buddy. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
And people know that I'm a huge fan of the Wood Brothers, so they know this is a fanboy moment for me, and I appreciate you making the time to come out and hang with me. First of all, how are you doing? I know you guys have been doing some Musical Square stuff and trying to stay creative and everything, but how's everything going minus the car accident?
Everything's fine. The car accident's it's no longer a problem, except that we have one less car.
Right.
And all Wood Brothers are healthy. And we haven't done that much. We're all trying to stay safe. Chris is playing it very safe. So he's been doing all his stuff from home, which is smart. Oliver and I will get together masked at the studio and sometimes send him stuff. And we are doing something that we filmed. Actually, the first time we got together outside and played, and that's going to come out, I think, pretty soon. So
Nice.
Can look for that. Yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to say what it is. So I won't.
Yeah, if you're not supposed to share anything, it's okay. Well, I wanted to start off at the top of the show. I usually do this with everybody, and I have a moment in my life where music entered my life, and I was like, okay, I want to play an instrument. Like I gravitated towards guitar. Do you have something like that in your life that you remember from being young that was like a pivotal moment for you?
Well, maybe different for me. My dad's a drummer, like a professional drummer. So I grew up like sitting behind him on the bandstand. So, when I was really young, I remember like being in everything from going to see him play at like a concert hall with like an orchestra to sitting behind him at a bar, like playing with a country band, just sitting on like the shelf behind the drums. So I kind of was born into it, and I was playing drums from the time I was like 2. So yeah, there's that. I remember the first concert I went to, and it was Dr. John, and that made a big impact on me.
What a first show, dude. Oh my God.
I know. I win with that. I mean, everyone's got cool ones. What's your first show?
My first real show was like probably middle school. It was the Spin Doctors and Soul Asylum and Screaming Trees. So I remember that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, I was just always doing it. Yeah.
What came first? Drums came first, but when did piano enter your life?
I think, I remember banging rhythmically on the piano, like using my fists.
A little bit of Ben Folds impressions.
Yeah. I really, and I was just digging on playing rhythms with all these pitches in them, but just like rhythms. And then my parents said, "Do you want to take piano lessons?" And I was like, "I don't know." I was, I was like 7 or something. And then I remember when I was 8, I started taking piano lessons. And no, earlier than that, maybe even earlier than that, maybe 6 or 7. Anyway, I can't remember the first teacher, but I studied pretty seriously with a guy who was way too serious for my age till I was about 14, and then I couldn't take it anymore, and I quit for a while, and then yeah. So that's the story of that.
So what's funny is RJ Ronquillo was on here a couple weeks ago.
Oh, cool.
And we were talking, and I was telling him how I was having you on, and I was a big Wood Brothers fan. He's like, that we went to school together, and I was like, what? And he said, so you were a piano principal in school, though? Like, that's what you did in music school?
Yeah, I was jazz piano. Yeah, jazz piano performance at Miami.
That's so interesting. So were you doing gigs on piano mostly at that time in your life, or were you kind of bouncing between drums and keys?
My whole life I've done more gigs on drums. And even when I was in school, I did gig a bit on keys. But all the bands I was ever in, and I didn't play drums for school at all. Like, number one, the head of the program, who was my private teacher, he didn't want me to focus on drums. He was like, that scared him. So I was just like, fine. Like, y'all don't even have to know I play drums. But yet with everyone in the school, like I was a drummer in their band. So like, yeah, it's
That's so
kind of,
funny.
yeah.
What were you doing? Were you doing like GB gigs and stuff down in Florida? Like, were you playing in like wedding bands and like bar gigs on the weekends and
Oh
stuff?
yeah, everything, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Miami is, it's kind of, there's no scene. And then the gigs you do get, I'll give it this. They lead to hilarious stories. Like it's just,
Can you
it's a
share
trip.
one? Can you share? Is there one that's shareable or?
All right. Well, I'll go to the top of the list and I'll just talk about this guy I used to play with, and I love him. But man, it was like a live drum and bass band back when I got super into drum and bass. Like when I heard that in about 95, I had a DJ friend and I was like, we were all like, what is this? So immediately at the same time that probably JoJo and everyone was doing that in New York, we were like, we got to learn to do this on instruments, which is kind of a hilarious and kind of ridiculous idea. Now looking back, like that's what computers do great.
Right.
Like that was a whole thing, but it was good. Obviously we took a lot from that. But so anyway, this guy had this live drum and bass project and we would play raves, and oh my God, raves in Miami in the 90s, just like trying to go in there with a whole band, no matter how much. And it wasn't really very organized. There wasn't really management and tour management or anything like that. But we'd show up and they just want 2 inputs for a DJ. And we'd be carrying all our rigs in and the lasers are going and the music's nonstop. And we're like trying to set up from these gigs. And he hires like pyrotechnics guys that we don't know about it. And suddenly in the middle of the show, just pyro goes off like right around us. And we're like, there's so many. I don't know. Miami's a funny place.
Oh man, that's so great. Man, talk about like a workout, dude. If you're playing drum and bass stuff, because how long were those gigs? Like how many? Like how long was a set?
Our sets weren't that long, but this guy would rehearse for like 4 hours at a time. Partly because we were so disorganized, mostly. And everything was quarter note equals 180. And so it was all. And I was really good at it. I was so into it at the time. And I got tendonitis. I got tendonitis. And it took me about 5 years to get through that.
And I'm gathering you're like, never again, dude. Like,
hell no. And it was a great exercise in precision and chop and all that. And from it, I also learned that, I mean, look who I play with now.
yeah.
Like the greatest thing you can do as a human in music, if you're playing an instrument, is bring your humanity to it. And that's the quality that's kind of undefinable, and that like just when you hear Levon Helm or Ray Charles, like anyone could play those notes, and sing those notes, but it's that thing you can't define.
Well, man, it's like I feel like every time I've seen you guys live, which has been many times, and like I always make the joke of whenever you guys are putting a new record out, I'm like, nah, they can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned. I'll buy it. So but I mean, that's the thing that I like about seeing. And when you entered the band and everything, and I don't want to jump too far ahead because I want to kind of go through the timeline a little bit, but but I feel like when you kind of entered and were part of the live thing on a regular basis, it brought more of that feel to the band. Like there was almost like there was already a heartbeat, but now there's a big old Grinch size, heart. So it kind of, for me, that's exactly why I kind of gravitate towards you guys. But so was Gabe Dixon that happened in Florida too, right? Isn't he like originally from the South down there? So like, was that was post tendonitis?
It was all during. So Gabe's from Nashville originally.
Okay.
He's like one of the few Nashville natives there are, because everyone's a transplant here.
Right.
And I met him in Miami at school. He was a classical piano major. And I was living in a house and someone was moving out. We needed a roommate. And someone said, I know this guy, Gabe. And he probably move into your house. And I just walked up to him cold, and like the jazz and the classical, we didn't mix, so I didn't know him. And I just walked up to him one day and I was like, hey, I'm Jano. Like, we have a house. Do you want to live in it? And in true Gabe fashion, he was like, yeah, that sounds great. And that's how we met. Yeah, we were
That's good.
roommates. And the bass player in the Gabe Dixon band was also living in that house.
Oh, cool.
Winston, yeah.
So you guys are like the Blind Melon thing, man. You're all living together, kind of working on music at some point.
We were living together. I didn't even know Gabe sang. Nobody knew Gabe sang.
Really?
Or wrote songs. Yeah, because he was just like this classical guy who went and spent hours practicing classical music. And then one day we heard his demo. He had a demo and he had booked a little coffee house gig on the campus coffee house. And we heard the demo. We're like, damn. It's like, you want a band? That was it.
Man, that's crazy, man. Is he huge into Billy Joel?
No.
He's not. He
No.
has like such a Billy Joel vibe, like and I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah.
But like storytelling wise, kind of putting the furniture in the room, lyrically speaking, you know what I mean? Like that you can just sit back in that armchair that he's created for you, kind of thing. He has that, and like I hear it in his voice sometimes too. It's so interesting. But I was telling John right before this, my 9-year-old daughter is a gigantic Gabe Dixon fan. And she, to the point, John, where she told me when she's old enough, she wants to go on America's Got Talent and sing a Gabe Dixon tune.
Oh,
and I was like, go for it, girl. Go for it, man.
That would be the best thing ever.
Oh my God.
I would love that.
She sang yesterday in her class. Like all the kids are virtual right now.
Yeah.
And she had a long-term substitute because her teacher just got off maternity leave. And the substitute was like, Skylar, I would like you to sing a song for the class on my last day. And she didn't sing a Gabe song. I thought she was going to, but like, man, she's like super into it right now. It's so cool. So that record, that self-titled record, did you play drums on that whole record?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought. What's interesting? Really? You played keys? Yeah. What tunes did you play on that? You play like organ stuff?
Wait, did that have sirens on it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that whole interlude weird part in the middle, I took that home and I just like created this weird thing. I was new to Pro Tools and I just went at it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that song has kind of a jammy element in the middle of it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. It breaks down to nothing and this weird thing happens. Yeah.
Yeah, but, that's super cool.
But Gabe played almost all keys and all the stuff. But yeah. Yeah, I was a drummer on anything that says Gabe Dixon band. I played everything. Band.
Okay. Right, band. Yeah. What was interesting about stumbling into that record is my wife and I were watching The Proposal years ago. Because I love Ryan Reynolds. I'm a huge Marvel nerd, and Deadpool's one of my favorite. But that song opened the whole movie, and one of his tunes opened the whole movie.
Was that All Be Well?
Find My Way.
Find My Way, yeah.
Which I love. I mean, those tunes. I mean, I'm huge into gospel piano and stuff too. So like, he obviously resonates with me. Yeah. But that tune in particular, it's like the opening credits. I was like, what is this? I have to find out what this is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and which that doesn't happen a ton for me, like movie soundtrack stuff. Well, I guess sometimes, but like that song in particular stood out so much because it's like right up my alleyway. And then when I bought the record and was listening to it, I was cooking dinner one night. My wife was like, duh, this is perfect. Like, this is totally your wheelhouse, man. Yeah. So it makes sense that you were part of that. And then you kind of transitioned into this other thing. So can you talk to me a little bit? Because we were both talking before and you said the Wood Brothers were your favorite band too. Yeah. How did that happen? Were you like touring with Gabe, and like, when did that transition out, and what was the in-between too?
So the Gabe Dixon band was a band for 11 years. it ending up with just me and Gabe touring duo. And let's see. I remember hearing the Wood Brothers the first time. I think Gabe brought the CD to the van. He's like, "You have to check it out. It's like Chris Wood from, MMW and his brother, and they made this record." And I remember us all geeking out. We were playing some gig in New York. We were just all sitting in the van, like geeking out on this record. And then the Gabe Dixon band kind of ended. It was just, that journey had come to the end. And I was flailing around a bit. We left Nashville. We went back to New York. I actually played drums in a Blue Man Group for a while. Just trying to. I quit music for a minute. I decided I was done. Like, just didn't want to do it for money anymore. And I started doing construction, like wanting to get into carpentry. And then I decided, hell no, like I just have to do this. I guess it all coincided with there's a few things I remember. I decided, okay, I just have to do music. Like, I just can't not do it. So I got to put everything into it. And I got to make this work. Like, this is just it for me. And and one day I was driving home and I was listening to the first Wood Brothers record. And you ever had one of those nights where a record's on and you just sit in the driveway till it's over? And I did that. And I didn't remember this. My wife reminded me after this whole thing happened, but that I came in the house and I was so excited. And I told her, I was like, these guys are playing exactly the music I want to play. And they're alive. Like, I'm not listening to some record from like 70s or whenever.
Yeah.
They're alive now. And they're doing it now. They didn't do it at some period. Like, they're doing right now exactly what I want to do. And I'm going to play with these guys. And she was like, "That's great, honey. Like, let's make dinner, let's get on with the world." And I didn't remember that at all. And then I forgot about it. And then I had an opportunity to open for the Wood Brothers, opening, strangely enough, for Zach Brown at an arena. It was a really weird gig for the Wood Brothers, especially at the time. And me, I was playing with this wacky fiddle trio. This guy, Casey Dreesen, who's amazing. But Zach Brown at that time, hired whoever he wanted to open his arena shows.
That's awesome.
Which is awesome, but also weird because we were playing so I'm playing with Casey Dreesen, and he's like, kind of sounds like Jimi Hendrix, but he's playing fiddle. So it's cross between bluegrass and like jazz and rock. And we're playing in odd time signatures and also this fast stuff. And I know the Wood Brothers are playing after, and I'm kind of like, I don't really want them to hear me play this. Like, just, I love this music I'm playing, but I'm like, they're never going to think of me,
Right.
But I got a chance to talk to Oliver afterwards, just for a few minutes, and we just chatted. And I was kind of starstruck. That's maybe the only time in my life I heard his voice coming out of the dressing room. He's just warming up, like singing some new song. I was like, oh my God, that's the voice. Like, that's him. And we talked, and then that was that. And then I got a call like 2 weeks later from him, and he was like, "Would you ever consider playing with the Wood Brothers?" And apparently, like 3 other people had recommended me, and they had just started their first tour with a drummer. They did one tour before me, and they had made Smoke Ring Halo, which was the first record they made with a drummer in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just confluence of events, or, it sounds cheesy, but looking back, it's kind of that law of attraction thing. Maybe the only time I've done that, but it was totally unwitting. It was just emotional. I was like, I'm going to play with these guys. I'm so excited, like, by their music. And then I just forgot about it. And then they called me. So,
man, that's crazy. So during that arena tour or that gig, was that like Smoke Ring era, or was that like,
yeah, that was
Loaded?
right after Smoke Ring.
Oh, okay. Crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Stars aligned on that one, bud. Like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, think about that, because
it's nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy that. So when you had that conversation with your wife, you were in New York at the time?
No, we were back here.
Oh, okay.
We were back here already, living here. and we've been here for a few months. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It's weird too because like I told you, my first Wood Brothers show was at the Berkeley Performance Center in Boston. It was just Chris and Oliver, and they were opening for Bruce Hornsby. And you know, I was there to see Hornsby. Like I didn't know anything about the Wood Brothers, but totally lost my mind when I
That's
saw
so
that
cool.
gig. Yeah, it was just like somebody like I remember this. This is so vivid. This is such a vivid memory. Sitting in the audience, Oliver introduces Chocolate on My Tongue. Some lady near me laughs at the title of it. He's like, "What's funny about that?" And I was like, "Yeah, there ain't nothing funny about that." Like I was like standing up. I felt like I was like standing up for him because I was like, "Dude, what are you being rude to this guy? He's trying to entertain us and there's beautiful songs and like." But I just remember like being so enthralled and just like devouring everything I could possibly devour by them at that time. And then I feel like, so was The Muse your first studio record with them?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and because Paradise was after that.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Chronologically speaking.
Yeah.
So tell me about when Oliver pulls you in and you're like, all right, I get to do this now.
Yeah.
And you're kind of writing parts for songs like One More Day or tunes that were on the first record, you know, that maybe don't, like Atlas, stuff that doesn't have drums on it. Like, did they already have ideas because they were already touring with a drummer, or were you like, let me do my thing to try to create something new?
You know, stepping into it the first day, like stepping into any gig with an artist who's the artist, you know, I walked in trying to treat it kind of like that. Like, okay, I've learned all the parts on the records, you know, and I'll try to get that feel, you know, as a starting point and then do my thing from there. But they were immediately like, pay no attention to that. Like, and in a way, that's been my philosophy from then on. Like, even if we do a cover song and I haven't heard it, like if Oliver, sometimes he'll say, let's do this old blues song that I used to do down in Atlanta, and I don't know the song, I will generally purposely not listen to any version of it. And then once we're doing it, I'll listen, because it's great to get inspiration, but I don't know, it's kind of fun to just like know nothing about it and just see what comes out of you. So they were amazingly open, and it actually took me months to get back into that kind of like childlike headspace, because I think I had been the professional musician for so many years. You know, you just kind of walk around with anxiety about trying to fill a role, you know, and do a part. I have some funny stories about that in Nashville, because I always. But anyway, the point being, they, among other people, really taught me to just do my thing again. Kind of from the first gig, I showed up with the shit-tard at the first gig. And for folks who don't know, it's like this guitar that with a lot. Can I curse on this?
All you want, bro.
Okay. It's got a lot of shit all over it, and it's a shitty guitar to begin with. In fact, it doesn't work with nice guitars because they're built with too much tension, acoustic guitars. Shitty old classical guitar. And it, anyway, it's a percussion instrument. I use all the parts of it. I can pretty much play anything I play on a drum set on it. And funny enough, my first gig with them was Carnegie Hall.
No pressure, Jano.
No pressure. And I walk in and I'm ready, knowing the parts, you know, that any drummer had played on. And I pulled out the shit-tard and they were like, "What is that?" You know, I mean, that couldn't be more up their alley, you know, especially Oliver. He likes anything that's broken and old. And so I just did everything on that. Like, I ended up not even playing drums. And the other surprising thing was we sang together. They said, "Do you think you could do a third harmony part?" I was like, "Yeah." I kind of learned to sing with Gabe over the years. And that was the most surprising thing, because their vocals blended so good. Like, they have a magic brotherly thing they do.
For sure.
And then somehow I didn't have to adjust at all. With a lot of people, if I'm singing backgrounds, I will change my tone and just try to for blend purposes, but I could just totally be myself, and we created this kind of magic thing. So
well, yeah, man, it is. It's like it's like a warm, fluffy blanket when you guys all get together and sing.
Yeah.
It's so, because that takes some, people don't realize how much work that takes too, like in terms of not only arranging the parts, because there is specific tunes where I'm sure you guys put some energy into, like, well, let's try it this way, or no, let's do this. And, you know, did stuff ever change the night of? Like, are you guys like, hey, let's try
Oh yeah.
doing this? Okay, cool. Like,
Yeah,
what
we change
stuff?
stuff all the time.
Okay, like, give me an example. I'm so curious because the thing, you know, what the thing I really love about this band is like the taffy thing you guys have going on. Like,
Oh, I think I know.
it's just like the rubato, like the pull push
Yeah.
stuff that you guys have, and it's like, and it's effortless. It's like there's this thing that happens where you guys can push and pull a BPM, like Mary Jane, or not? Is it
Yeah, Mariana, maybe.
Mariana for sure. Every time I see that live, it's different.
Yeah,
I feel like how you guys approach it.
it's different every night.
Yeah, it seems like that. But give me an example of like stuff when you're like, oh, let's call an audible on this.
Well, you know, I think I was thinking more like in a sound check, we'll stumble on something, and then we'll change our background parts or something. And we do work on the vocals more than anything. Like we hardly ever talk about music.
Really?
Yeah, hardly ever. But we rehearse, you know, we rehearse. We used to not when we lived in all different places. We'd just get together like the day before a tour and then go for it. But I'm trying to think what changes night of. It's good if something changes the night of every night for us, because we are the opposite of a band that plays to a click, and the show is programmed. And if we try to do that, that's not what's good about the Wood Brothers. The opposite is what's good about the Wood Brothers. And I think people who love it, that's what they crave and are missing in life, is just kind of people just in the moment, going with the flow, and like letting their ego about it being perfect get out of the way, so that you can have really magical moments. Like you limit yourself to just great. If you can play great if everyone in the band is great and they try to play really well and not make mistakes. But we allow for train wrecks, and we have them. I mean, and there's no way around it if you want those moments of that make you really feel, I think. So what was your question? What was I trying to say here?
Just like how, you know, calling audibles on like, you know, the set list, or like changing up something, or,
you know what that made me? Well, we write a different set every night is one thing,
which I love.
And yeah, and you know, we think about the venue, and we think about the day of the week, and just how it feels in there, and what mood people are going to be in, and if an election just happened, you know, and what mood we're in, you know, what we're excited about playing. We try to throw in something new that puts us a little on edge every night, because we fall into patterns otherwise, and the show gets more and more perfect, but more and more boring to us, and thus to the audience. And always the encore is, it's turned into, it's kind of turned into like, Jano, go out there and do something.
Right. So is that what happened with like The Luckiest Man? How you start off with like a little kind of a keys solo?
Yeah, I don't know if someone needs to go to the bathroom or something. They're like, Jano, go play something. But the first night was like, why don't you just do an intro to this? And then like now it can go anywhere. And like now the intro can set the tempo, which could be different, you know, from night to night, or whether I'm playing like doing the circus trick with the drums and keys, or whether it's just keyboards, you know. And I will also say we stick to the set often, unless we're really not feeling something coming up, then someone can call it.
Yeah.
But what makes our shows great, the moment they get great, is when someone fucks up.
Yeah.
So it's at that moment when, you know, we're playing something and we're playing really well, and then someone totally blows it. Like you forget a verse, you know, like
it happens.
Sing the third verse instead of second, and then we're just like, what do we do now? Do we end the song? Are we what's going on? Or someone just blows a downbeat, one of those downbeats that just hangs in the air and there's no time. Like there's a lot of that with the Wood Brothers. In fact, almost every break, every pause is pregnant.
Yep.
And so if we're not kind of all in that river together, if any of us thinking about like, when's Oliver going to hit it? Oh, it's lost. Like, and it's just a train wreck. But once that happens, it's like, we can all relax. Like it happened, and like it wakes us up too. And it like a moment happened that we didn't expect.
Well, there's a level of telepathy there then, because you have me fooled pretty much. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, I definitely have heard like a lyric, flub change, like a verse flub, like you're talking about, but like, it doesn't bother me. Like the last time you guys came to Baltimore at the Rams Head, the thing that I loved so much about that show was like, you guys played stuff off of every record. Yeah. Every record. It's like, you weren't like, let's just stay in Kingdom Land, or let's, do a bunch of stuff off of, one drop. Like, let's do it. Let's pull from the catalog. It's like that scene from Office Space. Like, I celebrate the whole catalog, so that's what I dig about it. Cause I'm a jam band fan, man. I grew up, my brother was a huge Dead fan, and Fish, and like, that's the stuff I grew up on. So I want to see stuff change, and I want to see people take risks.
Yeah. We try not to do the versions that are on the album generally too. It's like people have heard that. Yeah. So why not play it on different instruments and just see where it goes, or and we try to honor the audience. How do we have this gig? We're here because they're because you came to see us. So we do try to play songs that everyone wants to hear. We've played Luckiest Man. We've never not played Luckiest Man.
Seems like a fan favorite.
Yeah.
My favorite tune is Can't Look Away, man. Because
that's cool.
Of your slinky groove.
Thank you.
Like that, whenever that tune starts off, I'm always like, yes. But
I appreciate that, because that's one of my favorite things I've recorded.
Oh, dude, the drum sounds on that whole record, man. I mean, first of all, the abstract instrumentation that you pull into your drum kit, percussion wise and everything, just makes it so much more palpable in terms of just not hearing a hi-hat the whole tune, or like whatever it may be. Just texturally speaking and timbre wise, it makes the tunes more interesting. So I don't know if that's 100% your choices, but if it is, dope. Like it sounds how did you start experimenting with stuff like that, like with the kit? Like once you started like being like, all right, we've got the ability to bring a kit on the road and keys and stuff. Like, how did you start putting that stuff together?
Man, it just evolved kind of by need, or by when I did something in the studio. I'm an experimenter. That's my wheelhouse. And I lost sight of that for a while, and they really reawakened that in me. They're kind of like, do anything. And I was like, really? So I just, I'll be in like my basement. Just the other day, I'm walking down the street, and there's this rusty, like sanding from a sander, like blade. And I was like, oh, perfect. For years, I've been looking for something that size, that's metal, but not totally hard. Like I'm always on the floor just with tons of hardware and rusty pieces of metal, just trying to build. I've done that since I was a kid, and they kind of reawakened that in me and let me run with it. So yeah, it's rare. It's rare we ever tell each other anything to play as far as like notes, or, we'll mention gestures. Like maybe it can like get soft, but like really wide, like just like really big here, or, but because in that way you get the best out of people when they do their thing the most that they can do. So they've let me run with that. So yeah, I just build shit all the time.
That's awesome. Was that like an interesting experiment to fit a keyboard into your rig too? Like, I'm sure like ergonomically you were like messing with that forever.
Oh, I'm still messing with it. And I always get convinced that like some physical pains are due to that. I think that's all in my head, but that's a constant thing. And also playing festivals, like when we're not doing it this year, but summer touring is a lot of festivals. And so that's a lot of backline and flying. And so trying to get the keyboard with the stand the right height that's going to fit over the bass drum and like get all these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still rocking the SV1, or did you I saw you playing a Nord recently too.
Yeah, I'm rocking the SV1 generally. Yeah.
It's a great keyboard.
It is great. You know what I love about it is you can tune every single key individually. And that's what made me really excited. Because like a real whirly, once you get up high, it's just any of those old keyboards, it's unlikely it's in tune after the first day it was tuned.
Right.
You know. But there's something about that gives you little surprises. And sometimes it's like ouch surprise, a sour surprise. And then sometimes it's awesome. Like you like hit an octave just right at the right point and it's not in tune and it has this rub. So I have different tuning curves and I'll just change them and they are out of tune, which fits it perfect with the woodwind. All our instruments are out of tune. Like intonation's a joke.
Yeah. that reminds me of like sparkling wine, like seeing that live is another fave because of that. Like is that like just a really dirty clav sound? Like you just got a really distorted clav sound?
Yeah, and the amps, being a guitar guy, you can appreciate, you know, it's like that keyboard's cool and I can make cool sounds, but it doesn't matter unless I'm going through that like old 60s champ.
That's what you're playing. I've never seen what that was coming through. That's what
generally it's that. Although I've been using what was that old PV Classic 30. I've been doing that too. Using that lately. But yeah, it's going through that. And sometimes some pedals. For the clav goes through some Keeley distortion pedal too. But yeah, you know, it's all like a very delicate balance to get it to for you to not hate it.
Yeah, man, it sounds great. How much does gear like inspire you? Like when you guys are in the studio, I would think that it's probably not that much because you're kind of working on grooves, and because the Wood Brothers is a very groove oriented band, like you know. Which I love, but the songs are, you know, obviously the forefront. But like, how much does gear inspire you? Because you're like the auxiliary guy. You're doing so much, you know?
Oh, it definitely inspires me, but I can go down a rabbit hole with gear where I don't really think that's improving the music. Mm-hmm. That said, if you just have some gear that sounds cool around, that's a much nicer starting point. And it has to inspire you. Like we use in-ears on the road. And that sound can be really uninspiring unless it's really good. And if we're uninspired, it's like your fingers don't even know what notes to hit. Like there's no reason to hit the next thing if you don't like the sound of it. So there's that. And then there's the knowledge that if we just set up on instruments, it really doesn't matter. Like we're going to sound like ourselves. So,
right. Yeah.
Like this last record, a lot of it was recorded the first day we finished our studio, and we literally just were like so excited. We had just finished building sound panels for like a week, and we were looking around. It's the afternoon. We're like, we're done. Like we've treated this. Let's see what it sounds like. And so we just set up in that corner back there, and we're just like, see what it sounds like out here. And we started playing, and I think Chris just grabbed the closest amp. It was this old Bassman, which he's never played before. It's the engineer's Brooks. It's a great amp. He just plugged into that with the Hofner, and Oliver grabbed whatever amp was closest, and we just started playing, and Brooke comes running out with mics, you know, and he starts to tape machine up, and he's like, it's like one mic on the drums, just a mic on each thing. Yes. That's Alabaster. That's the track for Alabaster. Like, so it's like it matters, but like he's just guessing at placements that have worked before, you know, and like we used that information and cut it up and turned it into tracks on the record. So
that's crazy.
So does it matter?
No, I mean, it's really about, it's like you said, it's about being excited. I mean, you know, that's the kind of coolest thing about. So if there's one main overlying, like silver lining with COVID for me, is that it's made me realize, first and foremost, I would never be doing this. I would never be talking to you right now because like I was so busy, and you too, like just gigging, and like I never would have made time to do something fun and creative like this.
Yeah.
which I'm so grateful for because it's been so cathartic for me. But it's also made me realize, what are the important gigs? Like for me as a lower level musician, I'm hustling, I'm playing in bars with my band and I'm doing solo gigs
Sure.
and I'm like, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to do solo acoustic gigs anymore. Like that doesn't fulfill anything. It doesn't make me happy. Like
Mm.
what makes me happy is making
Yeah.
music with other musicians on the spot spontaneously, So like in that situation, I can see how, that track in general, like Alabaster in general, has such a vibe to it. And for it to come out of something so organic like that moment, it kind of doesn't surprise me in a way
Yeah.
because it's so real. It's like there's a thing about right now, like all my musician friends are like realizing, why did you get into it in the first place? Like why did you pick up a guitar or a bass when you were in middle school? Because it made you stoked, like you were like pumped to do that, and you were okay with playing for 6 hours in your friend's basement all day on a Saturday. And like that's the stuff I want to kind of get back to and understanding, like, why did I get into this in the first place? So anyway, that story's great. That's an example of that, I feel. So
Yeah.
you know
It's definitely brought that into perspective.
and is that writing process kind of normal for every record? Like you guys just kind of sit on a vibe and like find something cool and then it turns into something like Oliver Goes Home writes lyrics or something like that?
Man, it's very varied, but I will say no record Alabaster, no, Kingdom in My Mind is the first record we've made where that is really the process. Like we spent 5 days just jamming. And when we jam, we kind of sit on grooves and just let them be like, not really. And then we lock into something and then it starts morphing again and we lose it and then we lock into something. We did that for 5 days and just got all this material. So that record was like, we really cut and pasted a lot together and then ended up reperforming some things,
Mm-hmm.
But we just were so excited with the vibe that we got when there was nothing on the line. We weren't trying to perform a song. We had no expectations of like try to nail getting into the bridge here,
Mm-hmm.
But starting on the Muse, it was much more people would bring in songs and then we'd arrange them, and from then it's like it's evolved into like a really amorphous like process where Chris and Oliver do all the lyric writing for almost all of it. And so they're always writing stuff, but it's like I'll have a musical idea and they'll be like, oh, maybe this lyric will fit over that, or it just kind of goes back and forth, and that inspires something. And yeah, so it's amorphous.
That's cool, man. The Muse is always the record that if people are like don't know much about the Wood Brothers, like where should I start? I always say listen to the Muse first.
Yeah.
And work your way back and work your way forward. So,
yeah.
It's such a great album. Like, because the thing that's great about what you guys do too is like how things are recorded also makes a big impact on me. Like when I listen to music as a consumer, I like how your records are recorded. Like, are there any records that you listen to growing up or even now that you're like, oh man, sonically, this record is like doing it for me? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, sure.
Like I always talk about Robert Palmer sneaking Sally through the alley.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty dope. You know what? There's a track recently. Is it Lee Dorsey or is it Alan Toussaint? I know he produced it. I think it's a Lee Dorsey track called Give It Up. You should check out that track. I think it's like a perfect track. And there's a lot. Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Give It Up.
Okay.
Oh, it's just everything in its place. And it's got those 70 sounds and like, and the groove is just so my thing. And the drum sounds are so my thing. And it's just the snare just like peaks and distorts. Just, everything's perfect about it. It's I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff. There's this record, Passionate Blues by J.B. Lenore.
I don't even know that. I've never heard that person.
That's like, Hmm. That's like my groove Bible for the last few years, and much of Wood Brothers. Like we reference that album daily. I feel like every song we're talking about the JB groove and the Fred Belo, the drummer. It's dope. He's playing like I don't know what he's playing. It sounds like he showed up at the session and there wasn't a bass drum or like there was no kick pedal or something. He's just playing like a tom and a snare and something metal. And he plays the same beat on like every song. And JB's just playing acoustic guitar, and it's a blues record, and his singing's out of this world. The sound it just screams out of the speakers. Old record. And the thing is the groove though, where like JB rhythmically is very swinging. He's in and Fred is like he plays that groove the whole time. It's the most amazing thing, and they're like playing two different subdivisions, but the momentum, like they're just feeling like the forward momentum, and they're also doing their own thing the whole time. They're not trying to change it for each other. It's so good. Check it out.
All right, I wrote it down.
Change your rhythmic world.
That's great. Yeah, it's funny. Like there's so many records. Like I only recently just got into John Cleary. Like I'm
not really into it. Yeah,
really?
I don't really know. I don't know.
Oh man, there's so many great records. There's a record called Dynamite that my buddy was like, well, listen to this first. And it's just I mean, he always has great players on it, but I think like Nigel Hall sang on that last record, and like, you know, it's just that New Orleans groove stuff. It's all really good, but I'm trying to
check it out.
Oh, dude, John Cleary has such a catalog too, man. And as a piano player, I mean, he's New Orleans gospel blues stuff all day.
Yeah.
So it's just so good.
That's my jam.
Yeah, man. I wanted to ask you, so hi-hats, are you playing 17s? Is that what you're playing?
They're 18-inch cymbals.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a couple crash cymbals usually. And that's been my go-to with the Wood Brothers for quite a while. It's just anytime I try to use anything else, it sticks out or it's too washy or those. Mm-hmm. And it's those particular cymbals. They don't seem super huge, and they still have a lot of attack to me. I don't know. They don't sound huge, right?
No, they work. They have an attack, but they're dark.
Yeah, I guess they are. I'm so used to it.
Oh, I mean, I love that stuff. I mean, I'm a huge Steve Jordan fan. So like,
right.
Any bigger cymbals, anyone who's using like bigger hats and stuff or, you know, bigger cymbals, I'm all in, man, because I like the darkness. I'm the same way with my guitar tone. Like, I don't like things to be super bright. Like, I don't come from the Stevie Ray camp where I want things to be super bright. I play a lot of slide and open tunings and a lot of funk stuff. And I don't want it to be super bright. I want it to be like not super mid pushy, but have kind of like a growl, which is kind of what Oliver has going on with a lot of the stuff that he plays too, which is why I like it. Dude, his acoustic guitar, last time I saw you guys play at Wolf Trap in Virginia, I was like, his acoustic, that's the best sounding acoustic I've heard ever live. Like,
yeah, right.
Ever.
Without a mic on it.
Yeah, it just sounds like he's just sitting right in front of me. Like, and there's no filtering or any EQ issue. I was like, what the hell is he using to like?
That's good to hear, because that's like the hardest thing.
Oh yeah.
That and upright bass live to make it sound real. He's using Grace Felix. You know that thing? The preamp. I think that's what it's called, the Felix. It's a big silver pedal. It's pretty expensive. I think we searched around a long time, and those are the preamps on stage for a couple pickups he has in that acoustic. And you know, our sound man, he works on that every night. Mm-hmm. You know, for such a kind of like just go with the flow band and like see what happens each night, we do long sound checks.
That's fair though, because you guys have a lot going on. I mean, there's a lot of instrumentation. Even though it's just a trio, it's like, especially for you in general. I mean, you've got to feel comfortable. Like,
Yeah.
but like, because like, is it a huge respite when you come out with the shitar? You're like, you can take a break from all my limbs.
You know what's a huge respite is when we just get together to play, or I do some gig and all I have to play is drums. Or it's just like I just have a kick drum and a snare drum and a hi-hat. I'm like, hey, just get all this gear away from me.
Yeah.
I love it and I hate it,
Right.
It's nice to have the change.
Yeah. That's why I was telling you when I asked you about playing on that minute tune thing, like are you into the Brothers Landreth at all? Do you know about those cats?
I should check them out.
You really, you guys both need to do a tour together. Like,
okay.
So Joey, so they're from Canada. Joey and his brother Dave. Like I know Joey really well, and Joey and Dave are both on this show. And you should check out their album "Let It Lie." That was like their first record, and that won a Juno. But they're like Americana type of stuff. You guys it would kill if you guys are both on like a double bill or something like that. And I've talked to them about you guys because I'm like, you guys need to get on tour with the Wood Brothers. And Joey and Dave is a huge fan of you guys.
Cool.
He loves Wood Brothers. So,
cool.
Yeah, you should check them out. They would killer show.
I saw a little of your interview with Joey.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It was great.
He's a great dude, man. They're so I love Canadian people, man.
Yeah, my wife's Canadian.
Yeah, nice, dude. Last thing I wanted to ask you just before we do our about the lightning round, right? The little lightning round get down that I do.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
All right, we're gonna do that at the end.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you, as far as like, how do you approach, like, let's just outside of Wood Brothers land, like, how do you approach learning new music? There's a lot of musicians that ask me that stuff all the time. Like, how do you approach someone gives you 30 songs to learn or whatever? How do you tackle that? Like, what's your vibe on that?
Well, I can to explain my vibe now. I'll explain what my vibe used to be, which was I will learn everything to a T, and I will like make charts, and I will figure out grooves I want to play. Like we're talking about maybe going to do a session, say. And so many times you get in there. And they're like, cool. All right, we're going to do this song. I'm like, sweet. I know exactly what I'm going to do in all the sections. And they're like, we're thinking of doing it as a waltz. And then you've given yourself all these notions already. Or they're just like, it was really up in that demo, but, we want it to be really, really, loose and slow or something. It's hard to let go. So I try not to listen too much. I just try not to think too much about it, And then sometimes I wish I had. Sometimes you get in there. I did a session last week, and the other two people on the session, they had played these songs live with the guy, like a lot. I didn't realize that. And it was like 20 songs he had sent. And I just kind of loosely listened to it, be like, oh, we'll tack each one. We go in there and there's like no time to even necessarily write a chart because they're like, okay, let's do that one. Okay, let's go. I'm like, oh, crap. But I still prefer it. I'd just be there in headphones as they're getting sounds and just making myself a little chart. And then I just hear what they play and hear the vibe of the day and just let it flow. The more I think about it, the less cool my playing is. So that's kind of my vibe, if that answers it.
Yeah. No, I think that's helpful. I mean, there's so many, especially in Nashville, there's like, how often are you doing sessions like outside of when you're not on the road?
Yeah. This year a lot, actually. I'm very lucky that it's picked up because we don't have touring, which was my major form of income. But as a sideman, not that much. I've been producing a lot in the last few years. So, and that's luckily come through a lot during this time. So, so I'm often in that chair, in that headspace. But if you're talking about like Nashville sessions, then forget everything I'm talking about. Because I'm not the guy, you know what I mean? I have a funny story about that. I don't know if you have time.
No, dude, I'd love to hear it.
So this guy calls me for a session years ago. This was before the Wood Brothers. And always in the back of my head, living in Nashville, I'm like, well, maybe one day I'll become one of those guys who's got cartage or their gear is just set up in the studio and they have a few producers that call them and they just play all day on all these country records and they make good money. I'll be one of those 5 guys who has all the gigs. Because everyone in Nashville thinks, that's like the goal. It's like, if you want to make money and stay put, it's like in New York, it's like, maybe I'll get that Broadway show that just pays all the bills. So that's always in the back of my mind. And I get this call and he's like, yeah. And, these guys on the session, this is the guy playing on all the Big and Rich stuff. And like, it's like a few of those guys who played on all those records. I'm like, sweet. So I bring my most down the middle gear and we're in the session and I'm just trying to play it straight down the middle, chat, doom, chat, doom, just like all the usual shit and just trying to make it feel good, And I go into the control room after a take and the engineer, the producer puts his arm around me and he's like, man, it sounds great. That's why I called you. I wanted something different. And I was like confused and stunned for a minute. And after that session, it was so lightening. Like I felt like it just lightened that load of this thing I thought I should do that I never wanted to do. Like you're talking about, you're like, why am I doing this? Like, what do I really want to do? It's like, I never wanted to be that guy. Like, I don't listen to any of that music. And apparently I'm just not that guy. No, I don't know what it is they're doing that's different than me, but I'll never be that guy. So it was like this huge weight lifted. And I was like, I'll just do my thing. I'll just be weird and be myself. And things went so much better for me after that. I started to get calls and people were like, just do your thing. And that's been really nice.
Well, man, you know what? There's a lot of people who I would say don't have a thing. You could sound like every other drummer, but you don't. Like you have a fingerprint, and like being yourself is what draws people to you. Like genuine, kind of just Jano. Like this is what I got, man. Like take it or leave it, kind of thing. That's what I do.
But for years, it's like talking to Questlove, like he's the same way. He's like, he was trying to imitate for years, even when he was this superstar drummer. And then he found what he really thought was his thing.
Right.
Man,
it's so crazy. Like that pathway to walk, like from like a 12-year-old to, a 41-year-old man as I am today. Like it's just like, there's been so many ups and downs and like, it's a constant battle to find yourself. So if you eventually find your thing, regardless of what you do, like I want to be Wayne Krantz. I'll never be Wayne Krantz. You know what I mean? In terms of like facility and stuff, but like, that's not me. Like
and no one will ever be Wayne Krantz.
Yeah. And like, you shouldn't want to be, you know what I mean? Like I should be like, I don't want to be, I want to play slide guitar. I love Derek Trucks, but I don't ever want to try to sound like him. Like, you got to have your own thing, man. Like, and that's what makes you cool. That's what makes things interesting. It makes music kind of like not like a commodity, but like people can like focus in on what they dig and find their thing. Cause there is an audience out there for everybody. But man, it's such an interesting like road to travel.
And you're educated in music, like I am. And that's, but that's kind of that's what leads to the pitfall. If you just kind of learn on your own and you don't have a lot of technique, you're going to kind of do your own thing. You won't be very virtuosic with it. But once you start learning from a lot of people, then it becomes, you're like, well, I learned really hard to imitate this. And like, you get good at that skill. And then you have to refine, what do I want to do? Like, what makes me excited and happy here?
Yeah. Loud guitars. That's what makes me
there you go.
Man, it's been crazy because I almost gave up music. Like, I put my last record out in 2019, and right before that, I was at a point where I was bored with what I was doing. I felt like I had a good day job. Maybe I should just be a dad, be a good husband, whatever. And then I met Joey, and he was like, why don't you try playing in different tunings, man? Like, if you're bored playing in standard and you feel like it's not inspiring you to write anymore, try some open tunings. Try something. Just throw something against the wall until it sticks. And then I wrote my whole next record in open C tuning. And I was like, and it all happened like that. It was just like I was putting myself into a place where I was like a middle school kid sitting in my room trying to learn all of Nevermind.
Is that
Like
amazing? Yeah.
And everything is simple, stupid. Like, I love triads and inversions of triads, and that stuff is where the good stuff comes from, man. It doesn't need to be complicated. It's just like all about a good groove, good message, catchy thing that people can sing along to, and that's it for me these days.
Yeah. Oliver, he's always, his advice often in the studio is like, can you just make that stupider? Like, just really dumb.
Yeah, that's so funny, because when you listen to like the Wood Brothers records, like, that's not what I initially think of. Like, I always think it's super sophisticated in terms of
it's funny
arrangement and everything.
I hear you, and there is that. It's funny. You should try playing drums along to like any track. I didn't realize when I started playing with them, I was a huge fan, but I didn't realize how much time moved around, because the records just sound right. They sound like the time is perfect. It couldn't be any other way. But bar to bar, beat to beat, like, things just change, like, just depending on the emotion. And a lot of it is Oliver, just how he's feeling, and thus how that comes out physically, and it's a flow.
Hella authentic, man. That's really what it is. It's just that's how I mean, I could blow smoke all day, Jano. I really feel like I'm a better player, a better songwriter from being a Wood Brothers fan. Because now it's to me, it's like, what would the Wood Brothers do? Like, if I'm writing something and I feel like this is too wordy or too, musically speaking or whatever, like, what would they do to make this vibe better? And not in terms of like, my music sounds nothing like the Wood Brothers, but like, when I'm writing, I want to be, maybe it's that make it dumber thing, but I don't think of it that way. I think of like, make it smarter by making it simpler.
Nothing extra. I mean, they've made me better. I mean, that's like what I've learned from them.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. That's so cool.
Yeah.
All right, you ready to do this lightning round thing?
I don't know. Let's do it.
So we are at a cool 105 BPM. This is just to heighten the awareness and build the intensity, my friend. So lightning round is kind of like Fight Club. You can't talk about Fight Club after this, right? You can't talk about lightning round.
Okay.
Or you could if you want to tell your friends. But the first question is always the same. Lennon or McCartney?
Oof. Well, all right. Initial answer is, the whole thing with the Beatles is, I think it was awesome when they were together. I think they just played off of each other great. So I'm not as into any of their solo stuff afterward. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's never hit me as hard.
Really? So Wings, none of the Wings stuff is in your...
I'm starting to get into Wings.
I love Wings.
At first, when I was younger, I didn't like Wings. I think I didn't like the production. So I might have gone with... Yeah, I might have initially gone with Lennon back then. But
okay. All right, fair enough. Okay, so this is places to play. Would you rather play a small club, or would you rather play an amphitheater?
Ooh. Right now, I'd rather play a small club.
Okay.
I have daydreams about shitty club gigs for some reason. Since this whole thing started, that's what I want.
Oh, you know what? Side note really quick. My drummer was overseas, and I think he saw you guys in Amsterdam or something, and he said it was like the first show of the tour and all your gear shit the bed. Do you remember that moment? Do you remember that happening?
Oh, shit, I do. It might have been Scotland, actually.
Oh, yeah. It was Scotland. Yeah.
Oh,
he like texted me and was like, dude, guess where I am? And then later he was like, guess what happened?
Oh, yeah.
That's so funny. All right. Peanut butter cups or peanut butter M&Ms?
Damn, that's hard, man. Oh, damn. Peanut butter cups. I haven't had that in a while.
All right, cool.
Yeah, go with that.
Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars.
Okay. Clip-on tie or regular tie?
Regular tie.
Donny Hathaway or Marvin Gaye?
Oh, come on. Really? That's
Yeah. It's got to be. They're making them hard, man.
Damn. All right. Overall. Oh, damn. Overall, I'm going to go with Marvin Gaye, although I've had a serious Donny Hathaway thing yesterday. In fact, the mono recording of like Everything is Everything, to Spotify, the mono version of that, a two will come up because you can hear the bass so good on the mono.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that record and that Donny Hathaway live record is, man.
Get out.
All right. Wurlitzer or Rhodes?
These days, Whirly.
Okay.
The Wood Brothers changed my mind.
Nice. James Bond or Austin Powers?
Austin Powers.
Yeah. All right. Here's an interesting one. For your job, for what you do, would you rather have 2 more feet or 2 more arms and hands?
Ooh. Damn. That's making me turn away. That's a tough question. You know what? I think the feet. And I don't know why, except more hands seems like more things I'll think about, where more feet seems like more things that I can just kind of like dance with.
Okay. All right. And the last one. Sometimes this is the hardest one. Sometimes it's the easiest one. Would you rather be playing the shitar or the drum kit?
The drums.
All right, cool. Just because it's your first love?
I guess.
Yeah.
I have so much expressive possibility. There's just I can go from so small to so big and deep to tight. And the shitar kind of sits in one place, I find. So
yeah. Are you right now, do you have a bunch of, like, when you're on the road, do you have like a bunch of busted ass like ride cymbals and crash cymbals that you toss up? I know you probably love that stuff. I'm
a little bit practical in that I don't bring too much stuff that's gonna shit the bed halfway through the tour. So I've gotten a little more practical with that. But my stuff is pretty much on the edge. Like I should have a gaff tape endorsement.
That's so great.
Yeah,
man. Well, dude, I mean, it's so funny because like seeing you guys live, like this is a huge props, I guess, to your monitors guys and your sound people, your front of house, but like everything's mixed so well, like you can hear everything, and like every little nuance of the kit, it's like it's all there, man. So like whatever you guys are doing, just keep doing it because it sounds great on the road.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Props to our sound man. He cares a great deal, and we all care a great deal, and we will go out of our way to make that happen each night, no matter how much we want to just like have some time off.
Yeah, dude, that's so great. Yeah. Well, Jano, man, thank you so much for making the time. It means a lot to me, and for rescheduling. I know, you know, that was a tough situation you were in, and I appreciate how awesome you were about that. I was like, dude, don't worry about it, man. Like,
I felt
make
so
sure
bad.
you're okay, man. No, I was like, I hope he's all right, man.
Yeah,
you know. Yeah. So, but thank you so much for making the time. It was so great to hang and talk with you and meet you.
Man, it's really great. It's really great. Thank you. And I'm glad I discovered your thing. It's been nice to hear people just kind of geek out about music. It's nice to have that in my life, especially during these times. So.
Oh, dude, for sure. For sure. Well, you can hang out. I'm going to end the broadcast, but everybody, thank you so much for stopping in. This coming Tuesday, we're not going to do it on Wednesday. We're going to do it Tuesday. We're going to, Matt from Mule Guitars is going to be on to talk about building those beautiful instruments, and we'll geek out there. All right. So we'll see you guys soon.